Hello and welcome to the Last Looks podcast, a show where we catch up with talented hairstylists and makeup artists in the film and television industry. We'll pick their super creative brains and find out all the good stuff. Join me, your host, Jamie Lee, in finding out what's what in the hair and makeup departments around the world.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
Welcome back to the podcast, Sammy.
Thanks, Jamie Lee. I'm so happy to be back.
Now, last week we were chatting about some of the Hask must-haves for a stylist set bag. What other goodies are we chatting about today?
So the other must-have products for our hairstylists, they're the one and only Hask Shine Oils, which offer 3 lightweight alcohol-free options to choose from.
Oh, for sure. You got to keep that hair looking alive on screen.
Yes, couldn't agree more. First up is our Argan Repairing Hair Oil, which strengthens and restores. If frizzy, damaged hair is you frazzled, then look no further. Hask Argan Oil from Morocco Repairing Shine Oil will 100% come to the rescue. It instantly provides frizz-free shine without leaving any oily residue. Thank God, right? I mean, who wants oily hair? Argan oil is rich in essential fatty acids and penetrates hair to restore shine and provide soft, silky results in dry and damaged hair. So next we have Keratin Protein Smoothing Hair Oil, which smooths, softens, and reduces frizz. We like to say that this product gives damaged, over-processed hair the boot with a miracle makeover. So it's infused with hydrolyzed keratin to smooth and reduce frizz, leaving you with soft, smooth, and incredibly shiny locks. Last but not least is our Manoi Coconut Oil Nourishing Hair Oil, which moisturizes and revitalizes. And this is made with pure coconut oil. Yum. So Manoi oil is native to Tahiti and known for its rehydrating and softening qualities, also for leaving your hair nourished, moisturized, and revived. And this one's great for any hair type. All of these oils can be used on wet or dry hair for best results.
I love how many options I have when using Hask, and now I know more about what they all do. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the many awesome things about the brand. Not only are there so many choices, but you don't have to be married to just one.
Thanks again to you and Hask for joining us on the Last Looks podcast, Sammy. We love having you.
Jamie Lee, it was such a pleasure being here. And let me leave you and your listeners in the trade industry with this. The Hask brand welcomes the opportunity to continue building our relationship with television and film styling community. If we can support a project you're working on, feel free to send us an email at hask@stonemanagement.net, and we'd be more than happy to help.
Amazing, Sammy. Thank you.
No, thank you. I could be here all day.
And now, our feature presentation.
Today on the Last Looks podcast, I'm speaking with makeup designer Michele Burke. Michele has designed some of the most iconic characters in film, from Quest for Fire to Bram Stokers Dracula to multiple characters for Tom Cruise, including Lestat from Interview with the Vampire. Michele talks about coming up in the business in Canada, how her career has taken her to wonderful locations around the world, and the incredible challenges and pressures our line of work can create.
Pictures up.
Last looks. Rolling.
And action.
Welcome to the Last Looks podcast, Michele.
Well, thank you very much, Jamie. I'm really very happy, and I'm delighted to be speaking to you. And actually, it's an honor. I mean, just to be on there with the illustrious group of people that I've seen you interview. So I thank you, and it's great to be here.
It's amazing. Thank you so much. Hey, now I would like you to finish this sentence for me, okay?
Okay.
Once upon a time, there was a girl named Michele, and when she grew up, she wanted to be
A jockey, believe it or not.
You did? I think that's
did.
one of the best answers I've had so far.
I know. I grew up in a racehorse area, Kildare in Ireland, and everyone around me, including my father, were all involved in the horse racing business. So I began riding at a young age and became obsessed with racehorses and jockeys and everything. And I wanted to be a jockey. It didn't occur to me it couldn't. At that time, there were no girl jockeys. Of course, now there are. In fact, a very famous Irish girl is a jockey. But at the time, no. But that's what I wanted to be. So crazy. But
And
anyway,
were you going to be small enough to be a jockey? Because I mean, you have to be quite lightweight, don't you?
No, it
No.
did. Well, I am lightweight, but I don't know. It didn't occur to me. But I mean, it got solved rather rapidly, because when I think I was about 11, my father and a trainer decided they'd put me up on a 2-year-old racehorse in the middle of a curragh, which is a vast expanse of space. And of course, I wrote English at the time. And the minute my legs hit the sides of the horse, because jockeys ride on their knees pretty much. And even though my stirrups were high, I squeezed his sides because that was the way you grip us in English. And of course, the horse started to run. And of course, he ran away with me. And it was the most terrifying experience, and I couldn't stop him. And he was heading into the next town. He was literally heading for the next town. And the only thing I could do was head for a gorse bush, which I did. I steered him with all my might into a gorse bush.
Yeah.
He stopped suddenly and I fell into the bush.
Ow.
And after that, I said, that's it. I'll never get up on the 2-year-old again. And of course, then they had to race after the horse in jeeps and everything. And it was a calamity. Oh my God. My mother was not pleased when we got home. Anyway. So
she's like, what were you thinking?
Exactly.
How old were you when that happened?
I was 11.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Woo.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So then I thought, okay, I'd like to be I wanted to be an artist, because I was good at art. And then my father said, well, keep that as the hobby. It won't make you any money.
Yeah.
So anyway, it went from stuff like that's kind of the way it started. Yeah, I know. That's the way it started.
That's awesome. So going through high school and stuff, what kind of path were you on at that point as to what you wanted to do when you finished school?
Well, the path, truly, high school. Well, for me, it was we didn't have the name high school; it was just regular school. But I went to different boarding schools, and the one I went to called Mount Anvil in Dublin, I was a boarder there. I was not really thriving, and I now look back and realize my problem was I have dyslexia, and no one at the time knew what that was, and I just wasn't doing well, really. I just was floundering, and the only thing I was good at was art and sports and things. And the head nun decided the best thing to do is to send her off to this other Sacred Heart boarding school in France, learn a language, and maybe she'll do a secretarial course and get some type of a job then. So the solution was pack her off there, let her learn French, and see if she can survive type of thing. So I was flung headlong into this godforsaken place in Alsace and had to learn French. Well, obviously I had to learn French because no one spoke English. And the end result was I realized that I could speak fluent French. And I thought, well, you can't be a terrible dud if you can speak a fluent language. If you can speak a language, you can't be that bad. So then I came back. When I came back to Ireland, I went to another Sacred Heart school, Monkstown, near Dublin. And there I did my finishing exams to like entry university type exams, the last year of school type of exams. I did very well in them. And so, of course, languages was again suddenly my big strong point, and art seemed to be the thing. So then I thought, well, why don't I learn another language and maybe be an interpreter or something, like be a UN interpreter. That's what I thought. So then I thought, okay, I'll be an interpreter. So I went off to Spain, to Madrid, and I went, I used to teach these little rich brats English after their school and things to earn money. And I went to the university and took fine art courses and studied Spanish basically. And the goal was to learn French and Spanish, and I'd have English and be an interpreter. But when I went to a school that taught interpreting, I realized that I could not do this. Where you're hearing one language in and you're meant to be spouting the other out. My brain just wasn't working. It didn't like doing that. So, but at the time, again, it was early 70s, and Ireland was in a bit of a mess financially and economically and in every way. And of course, my family was, because my father had been a drinker and caused major problems. And I'm one of 10 children in the family. Wow. And my poor mother opened up an antique shop to make ends meet. But the big deal was, she said, look, you can't stay at home. You and your older brother have to get out and seek your fame and fortune, whatever it is. Just do something, like emigrate. And so Mark, my older brother, and I decided, okay, well, we'll emigrate. We'll emigrate to Australia or to Canada. And whichever country takes us first, we'll go there. So we did all the paperwork, and the one that came in first to accept us was Canada. So off we went, both of us, to Montreal. And of course, I never looked back because Montreal was a great place for me. It was French. And the only way I got jobs in, being like cocktail waitresses at a place called the Rainbow Bar and Grill and places like that. But they were very popular places. And the time, all the tax breaks, low budget films were beginning. Quebec was beginning to give tax breaks for film companies to come in. It was a very new thing. And a lot of film companies were coming in to do low budget films. So I was sort of modeling, helping a friend of mine and doing stuff like that. And one day she said, let's put on a fashion show. So we were putting on a fashion show. Her family were in the fur business. And of course, she had access to a lot of stuff and was very savvy. And she said, Michele, we better hire a makeup artist. And of course, I had never heard of a makeup artist. I didn't know about this. And in comes this makeup artist, Jacques-Louis Pelletier, and he shows his portfolio. And as he's flicking through the pages, it was like someone hit me with a light bulb. And I was like, how did I not know about this? He's showing these before and afters. And I was always blown away by these cover girl faces. I never knew how they achieved the looks. These were like these unearthly creatures. And yet the models that were there were just ordinary girls like us. But when the makeup was done, they were looking like incredible. And so the next day I couldn't wait. I called him up and I said, look, Jacques, how can I learn how to do this? Just as a hobby, just to be able to do it just for fun. And he told me about this Canada Manpower place where I could go and for 6 weeks learn how to do makeup. I borrowed money for my first $200 ever, got a credit card and took the course. And I was just besotted. It was like I had fallen in love with something. It was beyond what I felt. And I never knew that you could make money doing this. I thought this was just a fun thing to do. But I did finally, I heard somebody then told me that I could get a job as a demonstrator in the department stores. So I got a job as a demonstrator in Ogilvy's, which was a great department store in Montreal, to do makeovers for Revlon. And suddenly they liked me. And I was doing all these makeovers, changing women from, the 60s look into the no makeup look, that kind of look, the natural look. And they were calling me their international makeup artist. And it was really hilarious. And I was up there on this podium. But the big thing about the whole makeover thing and being a demonstrator was that I learned a lot. I just did face after face all day for weeks and months. And I really learned my chops. I mean, it was just amazing. All these women coming in looking one way, and I would take it all off and make them look another way. And it was just, I hadn't really a clue, but I was really learning everything I could, as best I could at the time on the job. And then I got a job with a couple, Electa and Corrado, who were a couple who had this amazing makeover boutique in Montreal. And their makeup line actually was the precursor to MAC. I mean, MAC pretty much copied what they did with their no-name brand. And I worked for them doing makeovers, and we did all the fashion shows and fashion spreads. And through them, I began to be a fashion makeup artist and went out on my own and, did covers and all sorts of stuff and fashion shoots. And really I felt I was considered one of the go-to people at the time. And then I thought, oh my goodness, I had bought this book by Richard Corson, and as I again flicked through the pages, I went, oh my goodness, I don't know how to do this stuff. I'm not a real makeup artist. I don't know how to do the character work, the fake noses, all the things he's talking about, the slit throats.
I feel like I feel like that book has a lot to answer for.
Oh, I'm telling you, that book, I still...
Everyone who stumbled upon it, it's life-changing for them. And
to this day, it's the Bible. I have all his books, his hair books, everything. And to this day, if you go to them, sure, there were different... He used grease paint or whatever, or different products. It doesn't matter. The technique, what he says in there is right on the money. And so I found then this lady called Mickey Hamilton, who was the only one old-timer makeup artist who did all the agings and anything specialty. She did it, character work, agings. And I went to her and showed her my portfolio and said, please take me on. She did film. And she did. She said, I'll take you on. You're going to work like crazy, no money. And I did. I worked with her, and really, she worked me hard. And I worked with her with no money, nothing for at least 3-4 movies and got my chops. But the best thing about working with her was not only did she give me an entry, she opened the door to film for me, but I learned continuity. I learned how to behave on a set. I learned so much. I mean, just by doing, and it was just learning on the job. And it was so exciting. I didn't care whether I slept or didn't sleep or eat or didn't eat. Didn't matter. I was just passionate. It was terribly exciting. I never cared about the money, nothing. And so that's how it happened, And for me, it was just this big, passionate love affair. And I didn't know where it was going, but all I knew is that whatever job was next, I wanted to do that job that was next. So it was really great. It was just wonderful.
That's awesome. So, how do you work on something full time and not be getting paid for it? You've obviously been saving your pennies when you had been working to be able to afford to do so.
Yes, because when you come from, when I grew up, my family were doing very well financially. And then all of a sudden, due to my father's errant gambling ways and drinking and stuff, the same story a lot of people may know about, he basically just gambled the family money away. And so I have
learned from his lessons.
Yeah, terrifying feeling of not having enough. And so with the result, I was always saving money and never believed in borrowing or anything. I mean, I always made sure I had enough, and I did have enough to tide me over basically. And, the goal was really that at the end of the stint, I was going to go, and whatever producers or films that I heard of were coming into town, I was just going to go in to their production office or call the production manager and show them my portfolio and tell them I wanted the job. And that's exactly what I did. And I mean, right from there, I began to get jobs heading up the whole show, which you'd never hear of happening now. But back then, that's the way it was, because they just didn't have enough people. And, there were low budget films, mostly slashers. So I don't really think they mattered. I mean, I remember one day when I was being called they were interviewing me to do Terror Train. And I remember Roger Spottiswoode, who's the director, and John Alcott, believe it or not, famous John Alcott, that was the DP, can you imagine? And so from Barry Lyndon. And I remember we were sitting on the floor of the corridor, I don't know why. And he said to me, Michele, do you think you can really do this film? And it occurred to me, my God, are they doubting me type of thing? And then I thought, gosh, I have never headed up a show. And then I said, oh, yes, absolutely, I can do it. And there I was heading up this whole film, and learning as I went. I mean, I remember using jam to make the blood coagulate and things like that, whatever it took, going to dental stores to get plaster or, down to this where you get cement at the quarry, to make molds. It was all just on the spot. And I met up with Stéphane Dupuis around that time, and he was in the same boat. He was actually very good with sculpting and things. He really needed his chops in the makeup arena. So we made a great team, and we had our own studio, which was great in Old Montreal, and we really learned a lot, because we learned on the job, both of us, learning how to make molds. And then he contacted Dick Smith somehow. And Dick, when he actually came up, used to use our studio as a base, I remember, for scanners when he came up. And through him, we met, John Caglione and Fullerton and all these people, and Kevin Haney. And, we learned from them telling us how they did stuff. And so with the result, little by little, we gained our chops, making blood in a big dustbin with a broom to stir and the blood and the photo flow. And little by little, we really learned a lot. And so we were the go-to, special effects people. And of course, when it came to blood and gore, I was the queen of blood and gore. There was no doubt about that one. And so, that's how it happened. We were just having a great time. We weren't thinking about our career. We weren't thinking about anything really. It was just, we were having a great time,
Yeah. So it's so awesome to have that partner in crime to learn with and to troubleshoot with and work it all out.
Oh, I know.
And just to have somebody there to do that with.
I know. And we were crazy. We took it seriously, but tongue in cheek, if things weren't working out, we go, oh, big deal, try it this way. There was although there was always the deadline panic, that was a deadline panic. There were all-nighters and horrible things like that, getting up at 4 a.m. to run foam and, terrible things. Is it gelling? I put it, and then we'd be calling Charlie Schramm, who make the foam, and no, this batch you use so much gel. If it's humid like this, don't do that. And it was agonizing. It didn't spring back when you touch it, and awful stuff. It was the stress. I can't believe it. That foam caused us.
I love that you had a community of people that you could reach out to, though. That's awesome.
Well, sort of reach out. It wasn't like you could just pick the phone up. We wouldn't dare. You know what I mean? That was like calling the inner sanctum. It was mostly just Stefan and I, but, it was still a freak out sometimes, But
it still is, isn't it?
Well,
there's always something that happens that you're like, what?
I know there really is. There really is. You're in the middle of something, and suddenly your stomach drops, and you go, "Oh my God, this didn't happen," or "This is not working." And you've got to right away in your mind go, and the actor's there sitting, immobile, expecting you to continue doing this amazing job, and you're going, "Oh my God, what have I done?" And you've got to correct it then and there, But I think we all have those moments, and somehow we learn. I mean, I guess it's just improvisation. We just learn, there is no little manual you can go to. What if this happens? You do this. It's not ever like that, because each makeup is so different, But that's the excitement of the job also, is that each job is different and every makeup is different, and every actor's skin and face and how they react. And there's so many factors, that we have to combine in our world, as you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, I find it so interesting. Recently, we hadn't even started the project, and we were having a Zoom meeting, the makeup artist, myself, and director production, kind of get to the end of the meeting, and they're like, so how long is this going to take each morning? And it's just like, guys, we haven't even done it yet.
I know.
Yes. We haven't, this isn't,
I know.
It's not exactly the same every time on everything you do. It's just can we just do the test first, and then we may have a little bit of a better idea as to times and things. But I was just blows my mind.
But whenever, of course, I did a lot of films over the years with Tom Cruise, and I would head up the department as well as do him and design the looks and do the leading lady and the whole bit. But always Tom would nail you before you even began. Now, this must only take X amount of time. So no matter what or how complicated the makeup was, whether it was Les Grossman or whether it was Vanilla Sky or some disguise for Mission Impossible, it doesn't matter what it was. I had to, he could not be longer than an hour. And if he got more than an hour in the chair, you could see him just grip the seat with his fists like, this is excruciating. I can't take another minute, and then he's about, and we'd look at each other, he's about to buck, he's about to get out of here, so sometimes you just have to design a makeup, no matter what it is, bring in a SWAT team, have your pieces pre-painted, pre-hair punched, whatever it takes, but design it so that they are not long in the chair because they can't stand it. They just won't tolerate it. And you're going to have someone who's not going to put up with you. And so it's 6 and 1, but then you can't compromise your art. So it's very complicated. Sometimes you have to warn them up front, look, this is a complicated makeup. And yes, the face will only take X and the hair, but there's still the fat suit or the hands or the other things that go on that's going to take time. So you've got to kind of psychologically get them ready for what's going to happen. Whereas some actors take pride in the fact that they spend hours in the makeup chair. I don't know why, but I did.
Well, who knows? But it's good that 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 with him straight off the bat. He's laid that, put that line in the sand.
Yes, yeah, and then you're back into it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, what's that Jamie, that cook who says the 5-minute or what is it, 30-minute meals, Are you going to spend 3 hours making the dinner? Yeah, Jamie Oliver.
Yeah.
He has a cookbook. I think it's a 30-minute dinner or something. And I have that cookbook, but I love it because basically it's going to take you 30 minutes to get dinner together, but it's a great dinner. It's got dessert and everything, but you've got to plan it. And it's the same thing for the makeup. Are you going to plan this cordon bleu thing where you do 50,000 stages and it takes 3 hours stirring the pot? Or are you going to put this together where it's just like this really lean, California cuisine, zen, but incredibly nourishing, wonderful thing. And, that's the kind of looks I would go for. And also I would go for minimalist and work up. I mean, I would not think of trying to put kit and caboodle on someone to create a look. I would go from bare bones. What have they got to start with? And then how do I build on that to create what I need? But if there's something that can be taken away, it'll be taken away, because that's one less thing, and time is money. So
if it's not necessary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
It's not bringing anything to the table.
I know. Yes, exactly.
So that sounds amazing that it sounds like at the beginning working under, what was her name, sorry?
Mickey
the woman
Hamilton?
That you worked for.
Which one? Mickey Hamilton.
Working under her, just getting that foundation of how it all works on set must have just been priceless.
It really was, yes.
Not everybody gets that.
And she would sometimes sit back and make me do the work. After lunch touch-ups, I did everybody. It was one of those things. She pushed me, But I took it and I loved it. It was not kind of, oh my God, she's making me work. She did make me work hard, but I loved it. I didn't care,
Well, the thing with that as well is that she's obviously trusting you to do afterlook touch-ups. Like if she thought that you were terrible at your job, then she wouldn't be letting you touch anybody. Do you know what I mean?
I know. So I was amazed with, but the actors didn't seem to mind, what I mean? Usually you don't just put your assistant onto your lead actor, But they just sat down and she just said, Michelle's going to do you. And that was it,
That's awesome.
I know. That's strange.
Cool.
Yeah.
So was Terror Train the first thing that you department headed, or?
Let me see. Gosh, it probably was the first kind of big one. There were other little ones.
Yeah.
But the first one where I was like, wow, I'm on a real film, Yeah, I think it was.
It's so amazing looking through your IMDb, because, it's such an impressive collection of projects that you've worked on. It's amazing. Let's talk about some of them.
A lot of them were films I sort of heard about, and it's like, I love to read, or it's like when you hear about something and they say, oh, well, this and this and this look is going to be in the film. They want this character to look like this, and then they go, that's the film I want. So then I'd go after it. It's like if you like certain novels, like I love detective spy novels or that type of thing, thrillers. And so if I hear of a good one, I'll want to know the name, or even if it's a food thing, I love food. And someone tells me of a great recipe or something to bake, I'll want to know the recipe, And it's a bit like that. If I heard about a film coming in and it sounded like I'd have a great swing at the makeups, like that the makeups would be really great and exciting on a creative level for me, I wanted that film, So the crazier, the bigger the monster, the whatever it was, I wanted it, But the film that came to me that was, I didn't go after, that I didn't even know existed, was Quest for Fire, which was weird because, that had a huge amount of stunning makeups, and I was just called out of the blue to do that, So it's strange how when something just drops in your lap. That one won me my first Oscar, I wasn't even expecting
Yeah, that's
that.
Amazing. Because how long had you been working in the industry?
Oh, only a few years. Even when I won, people were going, who the bleep is Michele Burke? And even I was saying that, who the bleep am I? It was,
what an incredible experience, though.
But it was way over my head. It was like being put on the racehorse at 11. It was like, what have I done? There were days where I was like standing there in the jungle, sweating bricks, going, oh my goodness, I hope the makeup stays on,
Because where did you shoot that?
We shot in Africa and in Kenya, which was truly exciting. And then we shot in Scotland, and then we went to Canada and shot in Northern Ontario, because there were four different tribes,
Yeah.
And I did the first part with Sarah Manzani, and then she was not on the show then. We did the rest in Canada, but it was so exciting. It was exhilarating and highly stressful because it was the first time ever I had to train people to make up Neanderthals and really streamline makeups, because I remember the first day I did makeup tests with new people that had never done these makeups. And even though I had a little mini demo day where I showed them how everything was to be done and gave them the makeup, when everybody finished their makeup, there was a pink Neanderthal, there was a pale Neanderthal, there was a yellow one, there was a dark brown one, there was a black one. And suddenly I went, oh my God, I'll have to streamline all these looks. So then I realized I've got to create a palette, a list of instructions, 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is exactly how you do it. You can't allow anyone poetic or creative license on what to do. And sure enough, then we began to get them all right, because each tribe, their skin tone had to be the right color. You couldn't deviate.
Right.
You can't have the mud people, one looking blue, one looking chalk white, one looking whatever. And the same for the other Neanderthals. You couldn't, all their skin tones had to be the same, basically, and the hair and everything. So it was a huge learning curve, and also how to run a huge department like that with many, many makeup artists and all coming in, who cleans up. And, we had a cleanup squad because the other ones had to begin at 4 a.m. to start the makeups, and some left and some didn't. And the logistics in the end, even the producers couldn't, became so confused, and it became so complex. They gave me somebody to work with to help me figure out the call sheet, and to not an AD, because the ADs couldn't even handle it, but just how to streamline them in and out of makeup and stuff, because it was just impossible.
Wow.
It was incredible.
And then you were changing locations on top of that.
Oh, yeah, we were moving around all the time.
Going and shooting in different countries.
Oh, absolutely. I know.
Wow.
It was crazy. It was crazy.
And for it to be in your first few years of being in the industry.
Oh,
wow.
Absolutely. I remember we brought over glue, the famous spirit gum from Foxes of London. And this was precious spirit gum. And the trailer had to move from, I don't know, one place in Ontario to another. And everything was locked down in the trailer. But when we came in, of course, with all the bumping around on the country roads, one of these gallons of Fox spirit gum got loose and spilled all over the floor. And oh my goodness, the cleanup. It was horrific. That and Fuller's Earth, the whole lot. It was, you've no idea, the memories of some of these things that happened.
I wouldn't even know where to start cleaning that up.
Only back then, And then I remember the costume department. Everyone's young, everyone's rookies. They decided for this cannibal tribe that we had these hair. I had created these like spandex suits, flesh tone, and we airbrushed in all the muscle tones. And I had all these Korean women in Montreal hand tie the hair into them so that they looked like Neanderthals. And that way they could just put on the suit and we wouldn't have to make up the bodies or do anything. And then once they went to wardrobe, the wardrobe decided, well, all the hair looks beautifully new, pristine, just like a new wig. They said, we better break it down. And of course, we never should have let them. And they went out and got cow dung and they mixed it with earth and all sorts of stuff. And when you went in to smell the department with these suits, the smell of cow shit. It was, you've no idea that film, the things that were done, but it was no one.
At no point somebody thinks maybe we should make up something that is like cow shit, but not actually use cow shit.
Yeah, not the real thing. But back then we did awful stuff like that because who knew better, and of course it was like rookies, the whole lot. And but it was fun too. That's what made it fun, I think, But no one would go near those guys who played those characters. It was hilarious. You could smell them coming,
Buggers. They would have gone home at the end of the day and showered for like an hour trying to just get the smell out of their nostrils.
They were called wagaboos. They were called. Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness gracious. And so you've won 2 Oscars, is that correct?
I know. It's hard for me to believe even.
It's amazing. So your second one was for Dracula?
Bram Stokers Dracula. But, when you win them, it's kind of weird one person winning for something because you have a whole team who, you're only as good as the team. And you have the whole team who buoys you up and who makes this happen. You tell them you want this and you show them this and everything. And of course it comes from your head, from what you want. But if you didn't have a good team, you couldn't do it, so it's complex, isn't it, when you win these things, But
yeah, it is tricky. I think everybody in the industry understands the situation.
Yes, I guess. Yes, I would. Yes, I hope so. Yes.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So tell me about working with Francis Ford Coppola on that. The cast as well, incredible.
Oh, the cast was great. Anthony Hopkins and Gary Oldman and Winona and Sadie Frost. It was, it was, and everybody again was young, they hadn't come into their own. I mean, look at them all today where they are now, they were just kind of up and coming, but you could tell they had talent. They were all oozing with talent and, plenty of egos on the set and everything. Francis was aloof, but pretty amazing. Most of his direction to me came through Eko Ishioka, the costume designer, because he put her in charge of the look, the visuals of everything, from the sets to the costumes, makeup and hair, and the overall design.
Yeah.
So I primarily worked with her, and then everything went to Francis. And from the two of them, they wanted one person succinctly to get the vision of the hair and the makeup. That one, there would be only one person with that vision, and then they gave that chore to me, which became tricky, although I wasn't aware of it at the time politically, because the hairdressers felt I shouldn't have designed the hair, that should have been their job. But Francis and Eko were very clear about the fact that they wanted the makeup designer to do it, and that was me. They had designated me to do it. And I had not been long in from Canada, and I was used to doing the entire lot if I designed a show. And so I just operated from that premise. But it was very complicated on a political level, actually, But in the end, I did do it. And, I did the old age Dracula hair that you see, the swirly one that everyone likes. And Greg Canham did the old age face. And Greg Canham did the bat and the wolf creatures, but everything else was my domain. And so Aiko and I would work very, very closely. And, she would show me different pieces of fabric and costume designs and ideas. And then I would go off and make sketches, basically, and come back to her and say, is this what you have in mind? And she was going, yes, but I want more red on the eyes. She was going to say lead for red on the eyes, or she wanted this, or she... paler, and so, and on the other thing was that they were very clear, Francis was very clear that he wanted a very different Dracula. He wanted a Dracula that had never been seen before. So that was a kind of a very, he said, I don't want the cloak, the widow's peak, the fangs, the pale face. I don't want that look. I want a very different Dracula. I want one that can look like he's partly human, but etheric, someone that is timeless, that lives between the East and the West. That's why I came up with that hairdo, because he is kind of Eastern inspired, especially with that big red cape, and then the West coming over this way. And so I created that look, where he was timeless. He traveled through the times, the Victorian times and the present times. And also in Dracula, because of the budget and because of the way Francis wanted to shoot it, it was all done on stage, which a lot of people don't know. He wanted it to be like a stage play. And he wanted the actors to be the sets and everything else to kind of fade back, because at one point he had Dante Ferretti designing the sets. And then in the end, he said, no, I just want Aiko to do it because it's not important. This is not important. It's the actors we want to see, and they're more important than anybody. So it was that type of film, and really artistically terribly exciting, and very creative and exhilarating, and terribly stressful. It was a stressful shoot, but on a creative level, terribly exciting.
Yeah, and just being able to work so closely with them to create what it is that they are visualizing, which is very cool.
I know.
I love that back and forth kind of, do you like this, a little bit of that, no, a little bit of this, okay, and you're just building something together, and it's so much fun.
I know. I mean, I remember the first day we shot that, we called it the kabuki hairdo, but it wasn't really that white hairdo where where Gary was in the old age makeup, and he comes across with the fingers first, like a shadow puppet across the set. And the music is playing, do-doom, do-doom. And you just see the head and the hands come across the set. They're kind of a very famous, iconic shot in Dracula. And we were all on the set. It was the first time we shot it, and we did one take. And then we stopped, and Francis was looking at it. And he used to often look at things in his silverfish, which we called the silverfish, was this trailer apart from the set. He wasn't even on the set. And you just hear him saying stuff over a mic to the crew. And I was standing on the set with Aiko, and we were all standing there in silence going, oh my goodness, I hope he likes this, because it was the first time anyone had ever seen it. And I was hearing kind of snickers from some of the crews saying, oh my goodness, he looks like Mickey Mouse. And of course that put the fear of God in me, because you never want a character you create to look like some iconic figure, because you could have the studio come out. I mean, Disney could come after you saying, he's too like Mickey Mouse, we'll sue you. And it happens. You don't want anyone to look close to Batman. You can't have the wings. There's all this stuff. So I turned to Aiko and I said, and I could hear the snickers, he looks like Mickey Mouse. And my heart dropped. And I thought, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? And I said to Aiko, do you think Francis likes it? And she looked at me and she said, he loves it. So I thought, okay, I don't care what they say. That's it. But you have these moments where you come away from dailies or something and there's a type of silence and you go, oh my goodness, I wonder, do they like it? Is that it? Have I lost the job? I mean, I remember on Vanilla Sky, Cameron Crowe came to me and he said, if Tom Cruise, if the studio and all the bigwigs, if they don't like the look you're going to create for Tom Cruise, which was meant to be a cross between like from a car crash, that he's totally disfigured and looking grotesque. But if you make him this iconic face that everyone loves, if you make it too grotesque but not grotesque enough, he said, we absolutely are not, we're going to pull the plug and not do the film.
Whoa.
And I remember the dailies from that, I was freaking out. I don't
pressure.
I had a dry mouth and I didn't eat for like nearly 2 days, because I thought, if this doesn't go down well, they are seriously pulling the plug. They are not going to have Tom Cruise look like a monster, Oh
my gosh.
I know. So that's the kind of stuff. There is a little bit of stress at times, but on another level, it's maybe it's not good, but the adrenaline's incredible.
Yeah.
Anyway, but
oh my
Dracula,
gosh, that's such a weight to put on somebody's shoulders.
They don't even think twice of it. They don't.
Yeah.
Because they're thinking of their stuff. It's just the way it is. I mean, you do see people getting fired, and we all know after dailies, if they don't like the look or something, it happens.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I mean, I say this often, and I say it often on here, but I pretty much just go to work every day just waiting to get fired.
Oh, stop. Oh, that's too negative. No, you can't do that.
Not really. No,
don't
kidding. But my joke is always, a producer walks over to me and says, Jamie, I'm like, what did I do?
Oh, yeah. I know. You never want to be. I know. I always figure if they don't speak to you, it's best. In the beginning,
no news is good news, right?
Yeah, if they're all ignoring me, I kept thinking, why are they all ignoring me? And then I began to dawn on me that if they're ignoring me, they're delighted with you. You're no trouble. You're doing your job. That's the way it's to be.
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
That's awesome. And then you go on to do another vampire incredible film, An Interview with the Vampire.
Oh, yes. That one was, I love that one, actually. Working with Neil Jordan, another fellow Irishman who lives literally up the road from my family. That was, I love that. It was, we went to Paris, we were in New Orleans. There was something awfully nice about that one. We worked with some lovely English crew people and worked at Shepperton Studios, and we stayed in London for a long, long time. And I really liked it. It was a great shoot. And on a creative level, it was very exciting because we had many, we had 16th century looks, and then we had Victorian looks. It was just a makeup of subtleties, Again, there were vampires, but very different to the Dracula vampire look. And again, this was more a makeup of no looks. But again, it was a makeup of details. And there was a lot of makeup and hair. But again, it was not to be noticed, So it was, skin had to be translucent. That's how we got into the veining, that you could see. It was so translucent, you could see into it. you could see into the veins, into the layer of veins even, and
Yeah. I mean, I remember watching it as a teenager. As a teenager, I was captivated by it. I was just like, because they looked so beautiful at the same time.
Yeah, they were meant to be. I mean, the Anne Rice vampire, I don't know, I was besotted by those books, and I really wanted, that was a film I went after. I really wanted to do it. And I actually sent an email, or I think I wrote to Neil Jordan. Was there emails at that time? Can't even remember. But anyway, I contacted his office and made it clear I would like to work on it. And he said, well, look, you are nominated for an Oscar for Dracula, and he was nominated for The Crying Game. And he says, look, I'll meet you at the Oscars. That's all he said. So I thought, okay, I'll meet you at the Oscars. So it did happen. We met there, and I began telling him how much I'd read the books, and I just loved the whole thing about Lestat and the Anne Rice story. And he said, she got the film. Will you work with Tom? Kind of thing. He said, will you work with Tom? He's got a real Irish accent. I said, well, if Tom would let me, I will, of course. And then that film then, of course, started a long, lengthy kind of callback where Tom would call me for films he was doing, and if I was available, I would do them.
That's awesome.
And that went on over a span of 16 years. Yeah. And then, of course, Anne Rice was disgusted with that Tom Cruise was hired as vampire, as in her Lestat. And she put out these big full-page ads in Variety and Hollywood Reporter saying that she felt Tom was the wrong person. He was not her Lestat. And so that made Tom and I and all of us more adamant that he was going to look the most amazing Lestat ever. And I did everything possible to make him look really appealing. His blonde hair, the contact lenses, the skin, his hands, the delicacy of everything. And when she saw the film, I remember she was invited to the premiere, and she saw the film. The next few days out were coming these gushing, man or whatever ads or treaties from Anne Rice saying, I have found my Lestat. Tom could have been no better. It was amazing. He was truly amazing. So having gone from Tom is not my Lestat, she had found her Lestat. Oh, wow. But it was lovely. It was a great vindication. And, it was wonderful to get that, because I just thought, well, if someone says something like that, you really, truly did nail the character, so that was really great.
I mean, I don't remember. It was the first time kind of seeing him in something like that too, right? I mean, I don't think I had remembered seeing him in a transformation like that.
No, that's right. He usually did Top Gun stuff. Yeah, that's true.
So that was very cool. That's awesome being able to do that.
That's why he wasn't hurt. Then he was.
Yeah, it's like, give him a chance. Just wait.
I know. Well, sometimes if you let an actor stretch, they can become, because they're an actor. They can do it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. And he must have had a lot of fun with that character, I would imagine.
He did. Yeah. I mean, he works very hard at everything. He puts a lot into every character that he works with. He works hard, He gets very serious about it. And then I do everything possible to make it happen for him, So
that's very cool. Now, I have to mention The Cell, because I remember seeing that film and being like visually just amazed by it.
Oh, yeah.
And then stumbling upon that director's, like, the next film that he did was The Fall, and that is one of my favorite.
Oh yes, films. Tarsim. He's great.
Yeah, the visuals are just so amazing.
Yeah. Well, Tarsim is a very visual director, and he was the first director really that I've worked with where. And usually I go further than the director asks me. If they say do this effect, I'll go a little more. I'll just tweak it just a little more, where they may say, Michelle, turn the heat down, But he was the complete opposite. He would go, Michelle, I want more. I'd show him something, and to me, this was over the top already. And he'd say, no, more. And that was really, it was like, okay, roll up your sleeves here. And I was working with Eiko Ishioka again. Yeah. And of course, she loves Tarsim, and we formed a great team. And this was quite a low budget film, and I had K&B working with me as the lab. At this point in my career, I wasn't doing lab work, even though I spent my beginning part of my career doing lab work. I had mostly, because it was just too hard to be on the set, and it was just too much. All of a sudden, it was just too much. K&B did the lab work, and I would go over there and go through the designs and we'd look at stuff and resculpt or whatever it took. I was hands-on, but not the same way, not mixing cement and making molds. And I think it was the beginning of silicone. We did a lot of foam gelatin at the time too, but it was a lot of work, and especially to get them hanging from the skin like that, all the things. I mean, yes, that's right, those hooks on the skin.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember he did a scene in the bath and he had those hooks on his back. And of course, they warmed up the water because he was getting too cold. And the next thing, it melted the gelatin and the hooks just went clunk, clunk to the bottom of the bath.
Oh, God.
And we were like, oh my God, I'm going to need to get more and put them on. And, the things we did.
It's incredible for you to say that it was quite a low budget film. Because, I mean, when you look at it, it really does not look it. And we watched The Cell maybe about 6 months ago again.
Did you? Yeah.
And it holds up. Like it's beautiful.
So, that scene where she goes into the dream world and there's all these weird dolls and mechanical, kind of like S&M, like a nurse and a doll and just crazy dream corridor that she goes down. They decided that on the morning of, basically, that he wanted that. And I had nothing prepared really. And so all of the stuff you see there is just made out of latex and Kleenex and airbrushing color. I mean, it was literally like that. It was just literally slip latex, Kleenex, cotton, color, stuff like that. It was, whatever it took. But whatever was in the trailer, it was like, I'm starving, I want a meal, what's in the fridge? And it was that type of thing. So... but I love that.
That's awesome.
I get off on that type of thing. I just love it. Whereas sometimes I notice there's always one or two people on the crew that look at me and go, Michele, how are we going to do that? We can't do that. They're crazy. And I begin, no, look, we have this and this and this we can, So it's
and are you going to turn around and say, no, it's not possible?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, you have to be realistic too, because you don't want to say you can deliver something and can't, because then that could be the chopping block also. So
I mean, these stories that you're telling me, just the amount of work that is done and the quality of the work and everything, you must have had some pretty amazing people working in your teams.
Oh yeah.
So when you're putting a team together, what are you looking for?
Well, I of course, I go for artistic ability and, of course, the needs of the film. That's why some people would get miffed at me because they worked with my last film and now I'm not hiring them back.
Right.
And even though I love them and we've been out for tea and walks, I don't have their use for their expertise on this one. I usually go for the expertise, but also very, very important is, are they a team player and is their personality compatible? And also, are they not, you don't want someone that's going to try to be the boss. So if they're a boss, they should take their own shows. There can be only one head. And if it's me, the designated person, then it's me. And if they're the head, I will bow to them. But I think it's very important that they do respect that, because it can create dissension in the troops, so to speak. If you've got someone behind your back saying other stuff to them, it's not going to work. So I do like to have a team that are creative enough to take initiative. I like to give a lot of free rein on a creative level to my crew and tell them how I want stuff. But then I'll say, look, you push it more and come back and tell me what you think. And, and sometimes they'll bring great stuff to the table. I never like to curtail anybody on a creative level. And I think you can get a lot out of your crew and out of what they do if you can push them also, because they like to be pushed, to be told, do more, let loose, be creative, And if I notice it's going too far, then I can rein in a little bit. But and the other thing too is I like us to have fun. I want, while we're doing the makeups, to have fun and to be enjoying it, and not it to be a stiff, you can cut the air atmosphere, that everyone's polite to everybody and that everybody has a good side manner with the actors and that everyone pulls their weight. Very important.
I think that's, absolutely. And I think you've been, the people who get to work in your teams have been lucky enough to work on such creative projects as well. So it keeps it fun and interesting just with that in mind.
Oh, yes.
Which is very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they like it.
Well, if you're enjoying what you're doing and having fun, then, It's not so much work, is it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, Michele, looking back on your career so far, what comes to mind as being the biggest challenge you've faced? Like whether it's one specific makeup or an entire job or just part of the job as a whole?
There's many challenges, but I think, for us makeup and hair people, we do work in a way on our own. We're all seeking work and we're all out there on our own in a way. And so the challenge is, how do you keep that going, to the momentum? It's a challenge, it's a bit of a rat race, and that sometimes I would find that difficult. You'd want to just relax and just calm down and take a break. And I never felt I could, so there was always that strange, I'll never get another job if I stop,
Yeah. What is that? Because I don't.
Yeah, I know.
I feel like the further along in your career you get, hopefully most people kind of have that moment of realization of, oh, I don't have to say yes to every amazing thing that comes my way. I need to have a break.
I know. I always felt
I can afford to have a break. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then there's that, then you see the film come out and you're like,
I know.
oh, I wish I worked on it.
I know. Then you're then there's the regret,
Yeah. So it is really hard. But even stylists who do a lot of day playing and things and they're just constant.
Yeah.
They just go and go and go and go. And it's just like, race. It's not like, it's not going anywhere. I think
it's a rat
there's
race.
Enough. It's just.
But I think really what people should realize is that you will get work and you should calm down. And because sometimes when people say, "Oh, you've done so many films," I always feel like saying, "Well, I'm tired even thinking about how many I've done because they were exhausting. They were just exhausting." Yeah. I think it's very important to take a break between films.
Yeah.
I didn't always do that. I always felt the what would you call it, the monkey on my back a bit. Maybe it just goes back to the old days where there were you never knew because you worked freelance.
Yeah.
There was never a security. You always felt you had to take something because there might be nothing then, Yeah. So it's complex, very, very complex.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is interesting. I think it takes time to retrain the mind to, it's okay to say no. It's okay to take some time out and have some family time and have somewhat of a normal life.
As I got older, I would, because you would know what type of film it's going to be if you read the script, and suddenly you're like, do I really want to do that? Well, it's all night and they're all covered in muck. Do I really want to do that?
Yeah.
And where did you say? Slovakia? No, thanks. So at a given point, you realized, not for me, thank you, But some other ones you can't resist. It's this actor, that actor. This is the subject matter. And you're like, oh, if I don't do it, that person will do it. So therefore I should do it, and all this stuff. So we get crazy, all of us. We have to calm down.
It's true. Yeah. But it's such a like mix of emotion and feeling and stuff, because it's just like those jobs that get you so excited are normally the ones that like, oh, this is going to almost break me, like this is going to be hard, but it's going to be amazing, but it's going to be so difficult, but it's going to I'm going to love it. It's just like, oh gosh. And now films go all over the world. It's not like, okay, we're just confined to Hollywood or Montreal or somewhere, they'll look anywhere in the world for someone to do a film. So, the whole competitive thing has opened up wide. And if you don't want to do it, then there's, Mary Blogs or Joe, whatever, McGinty, whatever. There's always someone out there. And they will do it. So it really depends on, is it a subject matter or a film that you feel will further your career? A lot of the times I would look at it like that, because it was the way I was thinking at the time, creatively. Does it advance me on an artistic level, or is it a challenge for me with me? Because in the end, I was challenging myself, this is something I'd like to do because I haven't ever done it before. And so to me, that was exciting. I like doing things that I like challenging myself. Can I do this? And then I'll invent some great way of doing something, Yeah, because you don't have enough challenges already, Michele. You like to challenge yourself as well.
Honestly, yeah, exactly. I know. Honestly, goodness, shoot me now.
It's brilliant. So in our line of work, what do you love most about what you do?
Well, for me, I think, well, obviously creating the character, the challenge of making a character look real, that's the exciting part, the painting of it, the colors, really making the actor become that person. That's just so exciting. I love that. That is the challenge. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The most exciting moment for me is you do all this prep work and work all these things out and do all these little bits and pieces within your own world and your own department. And you're, working with other departments. But then once it comes to shooting that character for the first time in their surroundings, with the set design, like this and that, and the costume and the backgrounds in there and everything. And you're like, oh my God,
I know.
It looks amazing. Yeah. It's so exciting.
Yes. I mean, I usually try to do baby steps, and I try to make sure that, I will check with the wardrobe and we'll make sure the hair, everything way before we do the test. So when we come to the test, I can feel pretty confident that I know what they're going to get on film. I never like to go to a test going, ooh, I wonder how this will come out in the film. You know what I mean? I do enough groundwork with all departments to make sure that I'm on the money with what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And even with the actors, so that when they come out of the trailer, they are that character and they feel confident in what I'm doing with them. Because if they lose confidence in me, then you've lost it. It's no good. They've got to be happy with you and feel secure in what you're doing for them so that they can relax and be that person,
Yeah, they can get on with what their mission is that day.
Yes, absolutely.
But it's just so nice to see it all finally come together when you start shooting.
It's the exciting moment, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, that's what we look for,
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to talking about locations and shooting around the world and all that type of stuff, what was the favorite location that you worked in?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think Namibia on the cell was.
Oh yeah.
And Kenya and Paris. Oh my goodness, Paris was amazing. They were my favorites.
What was the most challenging?
They all were, I think, well, actually, the one that was most challenging was when we were on Iceman. I worked on that with Michael Westmore, and we were so far north that we stayed literally in tents at the edge of an iceberg, with polar bears roaming around at night and stuff.
Yep.
That was the most.
That'll be it.
Yeah, that was it. And that was truly quite unique. I mean, it was amazing. Oh, yeah. Staying in tents,
Yeah. Incredible, but challenging. I mean, and what was the temperature? I mean, freezing.
Oh, freezing.
So how are you dealing with your makeup and everything?
The makeup was fine because it's, when it's that cold, everything stays on. It's like getting it off is the problem,
But just you didn't have too much problems with the actual makeup in its packages itself, like getting it to
I don't remember having problems because
okay.
he was meant to look like he had icicles on his beard and everything.
Right.
I do remember Namibia being complex because they'd have sandstorms and you'd come back to your tent and everything be covered in a layer of sand, and everything was gritty. It was like you couldn't get rid of the sand. That was awful,
Yeah.
That was just a different thing. And then if you wanted to shower, you got to kind of a bag of water hanging where you pull it with a rope and you're hoping to goodness the water's going to land on the right spot on you because otherwise you just didn't even have a shower, so it was complex. But I kind of used to enjoy these things. For some reason, I thought this was terribly exciting. Either the what would you call it? Like the jungle sound roaring of hyenas and weird lions and growlings, and you'd be there naked in this little shower booth with your bucket of water, and you're meant to pull the rope once you're soaped up, and you're meant to then get all the soap off and hope that you're clean enough for the next day. Very exciting. It was really exciting.
I think, for certain people, very exciting, and of a certain age as well. I think you kind of get to a point where you're like,
I know.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, exactly. When you get older, you go, sand in my clothes, sand everywhere, gritty bed. Oh,
no thanks.
I don't mind. I don't mind roughing it. I kind of grew up, having to rough it at boarding schools and at home with six brothers and things. You learn.
Yeah,
you'll be surprised.
It's awesome. So, what do you feel makes you stand out in your profession?
I don't know. Gosh, I don't know. Someone else could probably tell you that. A lot of times I think I'm invisible nearly, but standing out, I don't know. I've always kind of been a bit of a loner and taken my projects and just carried on. I don't know. I mean, I think if anything, just that I did take challenging projects, and, some of the characters now are really unique, which is nice.
Unique, I would say iconic.
And I always, as I said, would come from the sort of Zen point of view where I would try to start with less and build up and really try and have the character look organic, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that no one looks at it and goes, that's a great makeup, or that's, whatever. But for them to look like it's them, coming out of them, their skin, their everything, And I mean, you and I probably have started, well, certainly me, worked in the era of first time seeing a Polaroid and a fax machine, and there certainly were no correcting. So whatever you saw on screen was what you saw, what you shot. There was no correcting once you finished your makeup. So everything had to be meticulous. So you learned how to do makeups literally as if it's under a magnifying glass at all times, because you never know how tight they're going to go in, and then be horrified at the dailies that an edge is showing or that something is not right. So you learn to work macro, and with fine detail and really fine brush work. And I think that's very key to good makeups, is that you're really got a keen eye and that you make sure that there's no sharp lines and things are blurred, and that, a bit like Leonardo da Vinci worked, the kind of sfumato, really blended look. And again, no makeup if necessary, but only details if possible, So that, I think, if anything, is what I think would be more my signature look.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, going from just talking about starting with fax machines and Polaroids and then to where we are today, what are some of the more noticeable changes that you've seen throughout the years, like in our industry?
Well, I think, the biggest one is HD, because you really can't just do the Joe Blasco makeups anymore where you slap on tons of cream and grease and cover. You cannot do that. You just cannot cover, so to speak, in inverted commas. So you've got to find other ways around things. So the skin, number one, has to be truly, truly kept impeccably, which is your canvas. And then whatever you put on it has to be so stealthily put on and so incredibly worked, so that really you have to know that once you magnify it, that it's going to hold up, and the only way then is to work with little magnifying glass or something, like those glasses you put on that has a magnified things, that every once in a while you check what you're doing through it, because that's how it's going to look. And again, if you're on the set, have a monocle, a binocular, with a great Zeiss lens, so that you can go right in and see stuff, because only then will you notice differences, is the neck and ears, are they done? The hands, when they put them up to the face, do you see any difference? It's about details again, and it's about all the little things that make something look real. And if you don't pay attention to those, then you haven't achieved the look, basically.
Yeah, a huge change. I my grumble that I always tend to have on set is because of the HD, they tend to pump in more Atmos smoke.
Yes.
And I'm like, why don't you guys just stop using HD? Guys, why don't you?
I know.
If we're having a problem with everything being too crystal clear, let's work something else out.
I don't know what the love affair with it is. I really don't,
Yeah.
What happened to the good old fashioned thing?
Yeah, I can understand it for like nature shows and
Yes.
things like that, where you want
exactly.
to see everything crystal clear. But I'm like, I don't want to see every pore on somebody's face. I just
I know.
Come on.
Yeah. Who wants to see the blackheads?
Yeah. I don't want to sit in Atmos smoke all day either, just because.
Yeah, well, that's so bad for your lungs. That is so bad for you. Yeah.
So maybe we'll go through, who knows what, in the next however many years will happen with cameras and what changes they may go backwards.
I think we're only just at the beginning. Yeah, I think we're at the beginning. Yeah, I think they'll develop more stuff.
I look forward to seeing what happens.
Exactly.
So coming up throughout your years, but maybe more in the beginning, was there one piece of advice that someone gave you at some point that has really kind of stuck with you and sung true?
Of course, there's lots of advice. Well, one thing that did sing through with me was when we were on Dracula. I remember we shot many scenes with Keanu Reeves. After he'd seen The Brides, apparently he was so shocked, and it was so traumatizing that when he went to Transylvania and saw them, his hair went shock grey, which apparently happens. And this was a story point. So we had made him a grey wig. And Francis had approved it. Aiko had approved it. Everyone liked it. And we shot quite a few scenes with him with this wig on. And then one day Francis comes and says, I don't like the wig. I want you just to put gray hair in. Just, that's it.
Yeah.
And I went into kind of like but Francis, right away, we've already shot so many scenes. What do we do about the continuity? And he looked at me and says, oh, continuity is for wussies. Always correct. Always improve. They're not going to remember that. And he said to me, they are absolutely not going to remember that. And it's true, because I remember going to a screening of Dracula at the Academy once. They were doing some retrospective. And so I had to sit through the whole thing again, which is hard for me because you remember literally what you had at craft service that day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a different thing. And you remember what conflicts or what good things happened. But I remember watching, and he was right. It was seamless, going from the wig to just gray painted into the hair. And I thought, he's so right. I mean, as long as it's not such a continuity clanger, but always improve. And I do remember that if I was doing a special makeup and it was a very complicated prosthetic makeup, and the first day of shooting, there was a few things I could correct. But maybe we should stay because they could be noticeable. The next day, I'll boldly correct them without any worries.
Yeah.
And quite often I'll get these sideways looks from my assistants going, are you going too far with this correction? Kind of thing. What about continuity? For wussies, And sure enough, when you see the film and it's all cut together, no one notices. But they will notice a mistake. If you carry a mistake through, it'll be noticed, So very important. Yeah.
That's awesome lesson learned.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, always improve.
You're always learning.
Yes.
Always learning and improving. And I mean, the minute you think you know it all is you're kind of doomed, don't you?
That's, curtains, end of show.
Pack up. See
yes,
ya.
Exactly. Yeah. You never stop learning. Yeah. There's no point in time where you say, I know everything, because it's an evolving technology. I mean, the makeup products, everything's moving, changing all the time. There's always a new product. There's always new techniques, always something, new flavors, everything.
Now, this is a question I like to ask everybody. If I have you in your trailer, you're all set up, you've got all your tools and products and everything that you love, and I was to take away one tool or product from you, what would it be that would freak you out? What would you not want to work without? Gosh,
of course, I'm the queen of improvisation, so you probably could take a few things away from me.
I think I think it's a good quality to have. It's to be like, you could take it all, I'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. What could you take away that would drive me crazy? I think if I were doing a special makeup, I wouldn't want someone to take away my 99% alcohol.
Right.
If it was a beauty makeup, I think certain foundations and concealers would not be a great thing. Even though I'm not heavy on them, I do rely on them, because you never know what you're going to get if someone comes in with some skin issue. Possibly those two things.
Yeah, I think it's a good answer. Nobody said the 99% alcohol before, and I think that's a really good point.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, because I mean we rely on it quite heavily. So
if you're working with some of the inks, you do need it, to dilute them and to make them better, especially for special makeups with prosthetics and silicones and things.
Absolutely, you'd be lost without it.
Yeah, I guess too some of the fine brushes you use, those tiny brushes. They're very important.
Yeah, the ones that have, you beat up over time and they just get better the more you use them.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I have a few of those. But
and you get a new one and you're like, no, it's not the same.
I know, yeah, exactly.
And who would you like to hear on the podcast?
Oh, gosh. Well, I've always loved Rick Baker and people like that, some of those guys were just always had great stuff going on. Have you had Kate Biscoe on?
No, I have reached out to Kate and she is very busy right now, so I'm going to circle back around. So I think I also agree. I think she'd be a great person to speak to.
I know. Should be good. I'll tell you another one that's good is Tom Flouts.
Okay.
Very unsung hero, but Tom is truly pretty amazing.
Yeah, he is an artist. He's pretty awesome. I only worked with Tom just, I don't know, like maybe a week or so.
Yeah.
Doing some night shoots on Captain Marvel. And he's also such a delight. We just had so much fun. And then when I looked into some of his work, I was just like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, I hired him to work with me on There Be Dragons, and he was amazing. He just kept right up. We just, because we designed a one-piece old age on this actor. He had to look, he went from like 25 to, he had to look 80 basically. And we designed this whole one-piece silicone that went on his face. And it was really tricky application because we were struck for time. And he was wonderful. I mean, we just worked in tandem and he was like incredible.
That's awesome. Well, Michele, I appreciate your time today and I've loved hearing your story. So thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Not at all. Thank you. It's a pleasure. And I mean, your work and everything that you do is truly amazing. And I think these podcasts are fabulous. I mean, you've had the who's who of makeup on. So it's an honor to be there with them. So I thank you so much for reaching out and contacting me, Jamie. And it's been a sheer pleasure and I love chatting with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. For links to see more about our guests, go to our Instagram at The Last Looks Podcast or our website, thelastlookspodcast.com. If you want to keep up with new episodes being released, be sure to subscribe through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, Google Play, YouTube, or any podcast streaming platform. And remember, if you're enjoying the show, share it. The Last Looks podcast would like to thank Brett Stanley and Sabrina Castro. The song Fun Time by DJ Quads. Thanks for listening. Until next time.
That's a wrap, people.